Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Ratcast. I'm your host, Ratman. For today's episode, I wanted to focus on one developing news story. Last time it was a longer episode. I focused on a couple different topics, but today we're just going to focus on this new story breaking about Juul, the e-cigarette, e-vaping pen that's really popular. Um, so it was just announced. A lot of these stories. Okay, this story was posted 1 hour ago. This is from CNN. I have another story from CNBC, and then one from The Hill, and they're all saying the same thing, which is basically Juul, which is again, it's an e-vaping or it's a cigarette alternative. Um, yeah, the CEO announced that they plan to eliminate a lot of their social media presence, and they want to pull all of the flavored uh, nicotine juice, like the pods from retail stores. Um, so if you're not familiar, I think right now they make like 8 or 9 flavors in the United States. There's two tobacco flavors which taste like cigarettes apparently. There's a menthol which tastes like menthol cigarettes, and then there's a mint which just tastes like mint gum. I have used that one. I used to be a smoker, not super heavily, but I wanted something new where I wouldn't get back into actual smoking. So I do have one of these things. Not a super heavy user of it generally. I mostly use it when I'm really stressed out, and I exclusively use the mint flavor because I don't like the tobacco taste or the more like exotic fruity flavors that they also sell. And those are cucumber, mango, creme brulee, and fruit, which is like I think like a fruit punch generic thing. I've never used any of the. Well, have you tried the mango? Because it came with the device when I purchased it. So in an effort to combat underage use of nicotine products, the CEO Kevin Burns has announced that they want to stop sales of Juul flavored pods in 90,000 plus stores. This does not say if it's going to be a United States or a worldwide thing, but I know it's definitely applying to the United States, which is where they're based. Um, Juul Labs, I believe, is in California, but I'm not entirely certain on that. I hasn't said anything in the coverage. Anyway, they've announced that they're going to close their Facebook and they're going to shut down their Instagram. Their Instagram has been criticized for showing younger people, like people who weren't obviously children, but people who were like in like their early teens or early 20s, maybe like even like later teens, like 19, 20-year olds, sort of like looking like Instagram influencers and like, enjoying uh, the product. I've seen some of these older ads. They don't use them anymore, but this is like, I think how it was launched when it first came out a couple years ago. And so they're eliminating their Instagram, which I don't know if they've done it yet. I'm actually going to check right now and see if Juul still has an Instagram up that I can access in the United States. Okay, as of right now, they have 76,000 followers, and they have basically posted an update that says we're going to close our account, and then it says as of November 13th we're no longer active, and it links to their website where it explains why they're doing this, and that's all there is. And the post is not open for comment. And basically, it says go onto our website or go onto our and see our newsletter, and you can figure out why we've decided to close our social media. And it just says thank you. They're also so Facebook and Instagram they're closing. They're going to keep their Twitter, but they've specified for strictly non-promotional purposes, which I guess I don't know if what they consider to be promotional, because it's not a very specific legal term. It just says non-promotional updates. They are keeping their YouTube, but they've specified that the YouTube channel is only going to be used to show like testimonials of adult smokers who have stopped or switched to the cigarette alternatives that Juul sells. So yeah, it looks like they're taking a big hit, and they're not being asked to do this legally. Like, they're voluntarily doing this because they are under, I believe, a 6-month investigation by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, about their marketing and about like if they're specifically targeting underage people to buy their products and become addicted, which I don't know if that's true from their perspective. I know a lot of underage people use it. I think that that's very obvious. You can see it all over social media, that people, high school students, middle school students use this thing. Whether you can say that it's specifically targeted to children or if it's children have got onto because it's such a popular thing. I mean, it's hard to say. But that's what the investigation is going to focus on, and it's interesting to see how the FDA is going to rule on that. And a lot of the controversy around Juul has come from like these flavorings that are like, mango or fruit, because kids like mangoes and fruit, which I feel like the fruit should be called something else because mango's a fruit, so I don't really understand why they decided to go with that. But this has been a controversy, like they're luring children and stuff, which I don't really buy as much. I think that like adults want to use these fruity flavors too. I guess if it's a strictly like switch from traditional cigarettes to Juul, then maybe you'd want a tobacco flavor or menthol flavor, but I don't know. I mean, I know that there used to be flavored cigarettes. I know that those were banned though. So I mean, maybe that's the same, it's like, okay, well we banned those, so we're going to ban flavored Juul pods that are of similar flavors these banned cigarettes use. And that makes sense to me because if you're going to have, you either have to ban all of the nicotine tobacco flavors or you have to not ban. It's not fair to have like, okay, so the cigarette manufacturers can't do this, but the Juul can. But on the same token, is vaping as bad as smoking? I don't think it is because you're not inhaling smoke and there's less carcinogens involved as far as what we know about vaping today, which I know it's still very early with the technology. So who knows what long-term damage I am and a lot of people are doing to themselves in an effort to stop or, reduce smoking of traditional, cigarettes and cigars and dipping and all that stuff. On Juul's big newsletter or big post on their website, they do kind of say like, oh, we don't sell gummy bears or cotton candy, which are clearly targeted to children. So they are admitting that, some of these flavors that vape shops and like it's like tobacconists sell are targeting children. But I assume that they said that we don't do that. So they don't consider cucumber, mango, creme brulee, or fruit to be specifically targeted to children. Which, I don't know, but according to this, they're sensitive to concerns articulated by the Commissioner Gottlieb. I don't know how to pronounce this, but basically the quote is, flavors play an important role in driving the youth appeal. And Juul understands that products that appeal to the adults may also appeal to youth, which is, fair. I mean, cigarettes that are just, normal tobacco products appeal to teens, and they're, I guess primarily designed to appeal to adults. Even without, like marketing or mascots, I think that there's something appealing about smoking, to younger people and to older people. I think it's just sort of a universally appealing thing. Not inherently, I think just in the culture, at least in American culture it is. I think into European culture as well. They're going to stop selling these 4 flavors. I don't know if that'll help. Well, I don't know if it'll, I'm sure it'll hurt Juul financially because I don't know how they could, cut out half their product line and still make the same money, but that's not really important. It's not really important at all to me. I don't care if they continue to, be this huge profitable company as long as, they're in line with government regulation. If the regulation is necessary or not, I don't really know. I definitely don't want kids to buy it, but Juul has said that it says they're supporting a law that they'll only sell to people 21 or over. And then through their website, you can like buy the Juul pods and have them sent to your house. And that's 21 and over. When you go on the website, it asks you to confirm if you're 21 or over. And at least I know in my state, and I think most states in the United States, 18 is the introduction age to smoking. 21 is for drinking, but I guess that the CEO of Juul wants to parody that age limit, which makes some degree of sense. I don't really think the drinking should be 21. I think it should be 18. Obviously, if you can join the military at 21 or at 18, you should be able to drink at 21. That's just me. I don't know. I definitely see the concerns of underage drinking and driving and underage smoking, but I don't know if, because we still have those things even if the legal age is 21, but I don't know. So on the article I was talking about, the ones that were put up about an hour ago, CNN did one, and they have this little video they attached to it called Juul and the Vape Debate. And it's interviews with people from Juul and like public health people and teenagers. And it's a little goofy. I mean, I know that like high school students probably don't want to be interviewed for these kind of things, but they keep saying things like, I didn't know it had nicotine in it. And the only thing I can think is like, can you read? I don't know if that's fair to say about, high school students, but like the product very clearly states, this contains nicotine. Nicotine is known to be addictive. And I think it's a little odd that they have people in here like saying that they're ignorant to what happened. I mean, I think the products should be clearly labeled, but I'm also like, they are clearly labeled. So I don't know how you would miss that if you purchase the product. But obviously they're not buying them in stores because it's illegal. So maybe they're getting them out of the packaging when they arrive, like in the schools or wherever they purchase them from, like from their friends or whatever. So maybe they're not exposed to the warnings, and I guess that would be something to consider. I don't know if that's the case or not because it's kind of vague. Obviously none of the kids are like, my friend Brian sold it to me, and and he lives here, and this is how he got to me, and he uses his fake ID. It's obviously not that simple, but it maybe there's not enough exposure in the mainstream culture. Like maybe people don't realize that nicotine is addictive outside of its connection to tobacco. Maybe people think that only tobacco is addictive, so nicotine without tobacco is not addictive. I mean, maybe that's something people believe. I know that's not true, and the product's very clearly labeled that that's not true, but maybe people don't have exposure to the actual packaging of the product when they're getting the vape pods, and I guess that's something to consider. It's not something that's mentioned in this video. They basically they talk about a lot of different vape liquids that Juul doesn't sell, but like their vapes, they're like cotton candy and like Skittles and gummy worms and like cookies and like milkshakes and stuff. I've never been to like a vape shop, so I can only assume that this is the truth. I've heard of all these flavors. I know people who have used them in the past. Like they're not Juul specifically, but they are like types of flavors you like buy on like a bottle and you like put into your vape apparatus. I don't know if that's the right word. Your oil diffuser. I don't know what they're called, but like your vape machine. So I guess people are saying that like those sort of very obvious candy or like fruity flavors that appeal to younger people, and like they're saying that the ones that Juul produces are of the same vein. And I think that's something to think about. I don't know if it's necessarily true or not that that's the case, that if the Juul products are having the same effect as the other products. But I guess this is what the FDA is trying to figure out, and that's what they're trying to regulate against is, they don't want these products to appeal to children. But even that, like, is a person who's 17 and a person who's 22, I mean, they could both want candy flavored vape liquid. I don't think it's fair to, to ban it outright from retail stores. If the person who's 22 wants it, then I don't see why that's, I think they should be allowed to have that. I mean, even if it also appeals to younger people, I mean, a lot of alcohol drinks are, fruity and less, necessarily alcoholic tasting on the surface. I mean, a lot of cocktails, but even like mixed drinks and stuff you buy in cans at liquor stores, you see them, it's like oh, it's like fruity strawberry flavored, or it's pineapple, or it's, like, generically kind of tropical flavored. Um, and all sorts of vodka. I know vodka in particular, but I assume other types of liquor too. I've seen like flavored whiskeys, but a lot of vodka I've seen. All sorts of flavors. I know that Pinnacle, which is a pretty popular. I think it's Pinnacle is what it's called. It's like French vodka, and they have like a whipped cream flavor, and they have all sorts of fruits, and they have a cotton candy flavor, I believe. Um, do those appeal to children less than cucumber or like mango vape pods? I wouldn't think so. I think they probably fall into the same market. People who want to take a drug, nicotine being a drug or alcohol being a drug. I don't think there's. I mean, I think you can very fairly call both of them drugs, and they want to kind of take the harsh taste and have it covered up by something like, something sweet and sugary and whatever. I don't think it should be banned though. I definitely think people under the age of 18 should use them. I think that, and even a lot of people above the age shouldn't use it. I think that a lot of people have addictive personalities. I think I have an addictive personality to some extent. Um, and that's why I kind of try to do like harm reduction instead of like trying to like quit nicotine altogether. That's why I switched to the vape to begin with. And I don't know. I'd rather than people have options instead of it just being tobacco, because we know that tobacco products traditionally like inhaled, like cigarettes or like cigars or like chewing tobacco, are more harmful. So I'd rather people have a less harmful alternative that's still harmful and still addictive to some degree, a degree we don't exactly know yet, than there to be, absolutely um, no alternative. And people who are, heavily addicted are forced to either quit, which is difficult, or revert back to a more dangerous alternative. And I'd rather people have a less dangerous alternative, and that, I mean, that's kind of hard to argue against, I think, but obviously, I want people to do nothing that's harmful and nothing that's addictive and nothing that has any negative consequences, but that doesn't seem realistic, at least to me. I know some people stay away from all drugs their whole life. I mean, and good for you. I think that's very admirable. I stay away from most drugs besides, I guess, nicotine and alcohol. I don't use other drugs, but I know some people do, and that's something I don't have a problem with morally. Especially things like marijuana. I think it should be legal nationwide. Like I mentioned in my last video about Michigan legalizing, I think that's a great step forward. So I don't want you to get the impression from this podcast that it is being banned, though. They're just removing them from retail stores. You can still buy these things from like Juul's website. But they have this whole new, which I have a video on their website if you want to check it out. It's like the age verification process that they're introducing, which you have to like put in like part of your social security number, and you have to put in like a picture of your driver's license front and back, and like I think you have like a picture of your face that they'll like scan against your ID to make sure it matches. So it seems like a pain in the ass, which is deliberate. I think it's a lot easier to trick a clerk at a gas station with a fake ID to sell you these mango pods than it would be to kind of sneak your way into all of this authentication they have on their website, which sounds pretty state of the art, at least to me. I'm not a cybersecurity expert by any means, but this sounds more secure than just going to like your local gas station and handing the guy a fake ID. They're also gonna limit bulk orders. Like if you order too many pods, they're gonna like clamp down that and make it where you can't do that anymore, which I think is kind of funny. I don't know who's buying like hundreds of pods. I guess people who want to like resell them to children. I guess that probably makes sense if you think about it like that. People who want to purchase tons of these things and then like resell them to people who can't buy them legally at a upcharge, which I guess that makes sense if they want to limit bulk orders for that reason. So this is just sort of an interesting developing topic. I don't know. Obviously, I'm recording this probably about 2 hours after the news stories were initially posted to like all the major news sites. So I don't know how people are going to react to this. I don't think as far as I know, the FDA hasn't made a statement yet, either saying, you know, thanks for doing that, or this isn't far enough, or whatever. I'm sure they will at some point because, you know, the FDA has been the one they've been the one putting pressure on Juul specifically, and a lot of these other e-cigarette companies, and vaping companies in general. So we're gonna see what happens. Like I said, I just wanted to do a quick podcast about this because I thought it was really interesting. Because it was sort of like this big unexpected thing that Juul did, kind of not out of the blue, but just sort of more or less unprovoked. Like they weren't required to do this. It was something they kind of like came up with on their own to, I think, comply with what they thought the FDA wanted. So that's interesting to me. Next episode is going to be more political, sort of more what I'm used to. I'm gonna do something related to the right wing response to the midterm winning. Right now I'm watching like Paul Joseph Watson videos and Ben Shapiro videos and stuff to kind of see how the right wing ideologues are reacting to what happened on election night, and you should look forward to that. It's probably gonna come later this week, Thursday or Friday. All right, thank you guys for listening. You can subscribe below if you want, leave a comment. And I'm also available now on SoundCloud, and my SoundCloud link will be in the description, and it's on my channel right up there with my Twitter link, which you can also follow me on Twitter. All right, guys, have a good one.